No matter who you are, what your circumstances are, there is some type of physical activity for you.
Many of us are in chronic stress, constant state of stress that kind of flood our system. Exercise tricks the body of using a lot of that.
You really need to take care of your health and well-being before you can help anyone else, before you can look after your family, before you can perform well at work. If you're not, then other aspects of your life that you're so worried about and putting first, those would suffer if you're not taking care of yourself. Many people have this misconception where unless they're lying on the gym floor, breathing hard and drenched in sweat, that it's not a good workout. But it's really important to think about what are you trying to create in that training session.
So even after hearing all of this great information, I just don't feel like it. I'm not motivated. What would you say to that?
Well, of course, the answer to that is
I just want to quickly thank you for beginning to watch this podcast episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. Would love it if you join our community. You'll also be up to date on the latest content, and this really helps me reach out to more guests. You can also visit our website, centerformindfulness.ca. There's free events about mindfulness and laughter. Hope you enjoy this episode. Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to share today's conversation with Catherine King, who was named as top fitness trainer in Canada by Impact Magazine in 2024 and 2020. We'll be covering the topic of exercise, mental health, fitness, motivation, misconception about health and fitness, trends. So there's a lot of things we'll be covering. So first, a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us.
thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. I feel like my cardiovascular system is moving already with excitement. So I feel it's already happening.
That breathing rate, heart rate's increased.
That's right. Breathing increasing, all of it. So thank you again for joining us. And I'll share a little bit of your bio for those who are not as familiar with your work. Catherine is practicing kinesiologist with a Master of Science degree in Strength and Conditioning from University of Edinburgh, and a Bachelor of Human Kinetics from University of British Columbia in Vancouver. She is double certified with the National Strength and Conditioning Association as a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a certified personal trainer with distinction, working with both athletes and general population of all levels, abilities, and capacities. I love that. She also gives back to her profession by serving on 2 committees for the National Strength and Conditioning Association, including the work she did to diligently initiate and launch a women's mentorship program in 2023 to support females in a male-dominated industry. Love to learn more about that too. She recognizes that health and fitness are lifelong pursuits. So I wonder if we can begin with just what even inspired you to enter this field and interest in this fitness and this wellness.
Well, of course, I took a meandering path to get here.
Yes.
Years ago, I actually had no idea I was going to go this route. And my brother had even one time said to me, "Oh, you should become a personal trainer." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that." But here we are.
Yes.
So it was just, I can't say that it was a planned direction to start with. It was just kind of a road I ended up on. I did love working out. I was a gym rat. And ended up in college studying human performance, and then on to UBC for human kinetics. And then, why not do a master's degree? And I've just been on this path.
Yes. What's beautiful? It began with your interest in something, like your interest in fitness and well-being. You start following it, right? And we've had conversations about that, and even in preparing for this, when we started talking about fitness, and like you are a wealth of knowledge, truly, not just in terms of research, what's evidence-based. So there's so many things I'm curious about. What would you say are the benefits of exercise, whether it's health benefits, physical, as well as mental health? What are some benefits? Like, why even exercise?
Of course, there are so many benefits. Like there is a
Mm,
lot of research about the benefits of exercise and physical
mm,
activity. Well, to start with, you feel better.
mm,
I think that's, a key that people need to know that when they're moving, they're going to feel better. Their bodies are
mm,
going to feel better. They're going to have less discomfort, less pain. They're going to
mm,
have more energy. They're going to sleep better. And then the more benefits that research keeps telling us are there is that
mm,
it reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, the risk of type 2 diabetes. Because when
mm,
you're strength training, your muscle cells have the ability to take glucose in without using insulin. So
mm.
if you're kind of on the edge of being that pre-diabetic range, you should be strength training to lower that risk and get you metabolically healthy. Also, other
Mm,
chronic diseases, all of them benefit from being physically active. Mental health,
mm.
it helps to deal with depression.
Right.
And the research does indicate that the results from physical activity versus some of the medications, it's pretty equal in a
Yeah,
lot of that research. So that's exciting.
that is so exciting. Actually, in my work as a psychologist is one of the things I often give people as homework. And sometimes you're surprised. Is the homework is to do some kind of movement, like 3 times a week, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, where it's moderate. You're pushing yourself just enough. It could be a walk, it could be a swim, just something. And
Absolutely.
because the research really does show that, in terms of serotonin, dopamine, but also we feel good about ourselves. Like on
Mhm.
top of the health benefits, like we feel like we are, accomplished something. There's something
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
changes. Yeah.
More confident. You're more able to do things like just activities of daily living are easier.
Mm,
Of course, it helps manage your stress. It helps improve your sexual health.
right.
There's also research indicating that exercise is just as effective as ED medications. Now, if that's not a
Mm.
reason for men to get out there and start exercising,
Yes. Yes. And for those who are not familiar with what the ED, can you share? So it's erectile dysfunction. Yeah, yeah.
correct.
That's right. So there's a lot of benefits in terms of exercise. And when we were talking about this as well the other day, you were mentioning some interesting work around cancer in terms of physical health. So what have you discovered around
Yeah,
that?
so there's a lot of research that indicates that physical activity
Mm,
reduces your risk of some types of cancer, like colon cancer, breast cancer. Um, so again, there are so many reasons why people should be physically active.
yeah. So here's like the $1 million question that we're going to try to solve. The it's no longer like, oh, is exercise good for you or not? There's so many benefits. So why aren't people, or not everyone, but why are so many people not doing it? What's what would you say? What are some top reasons that get in the way of this?
Well, I think one of the reasons is ourselves.
Yes.
So I think really, starting with mindset,
Mm,
thinking about your life, like self-reflecting on your life in the present, what does it look like?
mm,
What do you want to improve? What could be better? Looking at your past.
mm,
Were you physically active? Were you not? Why?
mm,
Asking yourself some self-reflection and then thinking about the future. What do you want the next year to look like? The next
mm.
2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do you want aging to look like? Because health and wellness really is a lifelong pursuit. You have to keep working
Mm.
at it to be healthy, to have the type of lifestyle you want to have.
Mm.
And I think that self-reflection and thinking ahead, what do I want my aging to look like? What do I want my year to look like? What do I want this month to look like? This week, this day? And what could be better?
Mm.
And then, of course, thinking from that, well, how do I do that? What tools, resources, knowledge do I need
Mm.
to get there? So you're thinking, that outcome goal, that big aspiration that you might have, like maybe you have a vacation that you really want to take.
Mm.
Are you strong enough to pick up your luggage?
Right.
You know,
Right.
can you hike up to see whatever site on your
Mm.
trip? Can you fully enjoy it? Like, will your body allow you to do that?
Mm.
And, how do you get to that point where you can do it and you can be triumphant in it and fully enjoy yourself without any physical limitations?
You know, I love this perspective you're bringing because, you're talking about longevity and quality of life, right? So it's not just, looking a certain way, which I think, the fitness industry, there's a lot of emphasis of looking a certain way, just like ripped or whatever it is. But what you're naming actually is longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's a lot of research on that in terms of exercise and even brain health. Like, brain will function better when we're moving because the body's connected to the brain, right? So when we're moving, we're actually engaging our brain.
Of course, even for high performance,
Mm.
if you're an athlete, you want longevity in your career as well.
Mm.
So you're still playing that long game where your focus is not only on performance or on aesthetics or whatever, but you're also thinking about the longevity of it.
Mm.
So if your focus, if you are younger and it is on aesthetics, well, how can you maintain those aesthetics as long as possible rather than I'm, gonna lose 10 pounds by next week and I'm gonna, you know, do this cleanse and that, and, where it's very short term.
Uh,
So either you do achieve it or you completely don't because you set yourself up for failure.
right.
But if you do achieve it, then what?
Mm.
So if you have a short term goal of, weight loss or running a marathon or whatever,
Mm.
once you achieve that, do you just go back to the way you were before? Or do you stay on that, whatever you were doing to get there? Like, so people also need to think about that in their health and
Mm.
wellness. Is it sustainable? Can they do it forever? Or is it just a short-term kind of fix?
Mm. What a great question to think about. And I can imagine you exploring with your clients in terms of goals and goal settings. Because it's like, where's this compass aiming? Like, what are we? So I guess that's what you do initially with clients as well, is looking at goals and
Yeah. Of course, I
mm.
also want clients to think about, their environment. Who are they surrounded by? Are their
Mm.
family and friends supportive of their desire to change, or are they going to be hindering it? And I think it's
Mm.
one thing that we can all do to help ourselves, no matter who you are or how old you are,
Mm.
and that is to surround yourself by people that you admire, that you want to
Mm.
be like.
Mm.
So if you want to be more physically active, start getting to know people that already are physically active. If you want to drink more pints, get to know people that go to the pub all the time.
That's right.
So if you want to be successful in business, meet people that are successful in business.
Mm. Yeah.
So, especially for people who are young,
Mm.
when you're choosing your friends in school, do you admire them? Do you want to
Mm.
be like them? Do they have qualities that you admire?
Right.
And I think you should carry that through as an adult.
Mm. See this, what you're sharing, it's expanding the lens. So part of getting the goals in terms of outcomes of health benefits and exercise, there's things that can support it. So here is
Absolutely.
like who you are surrounded with, who you're connecting with, because they can either inspire you, or kind of put you down, right? Or you're like, ah, don't worry about it. Let's not go to the gym versus I'll meet you at the gym at whatever, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., or whatever it is.
That's kind of part of, changing your environment to support your
Mm,
goals and make it easier, right?
mm,
So just like if you really want to start going to the gym, well, you need to make sure that you have your gym bag and your shoes and everything ready to go to the gym. So
mm.
you're adjusting your environment. You're choosing who's around you to some extent. Obviously, we can't always choose who's around,
Right.
but we can, try to get as many people that we want to be more like around
Mm,
us. We can adjust our environments to make things more like less friction, right?
mm.
Make it easier. Have your running shoes, have your water bottle, whatever you need to do to kind of set yourself up for all of those health and wellness things that you can actually control.
Mm. So is this part of in terms of behavioral change, creating habits, creating
Absolutely.
habit in terms, and then become like triggers that can remind you, like, oh, I put my gear after dinner, I prepared for the next day, I put my gym bag or get my shoe ready or my clothes for tomorrow's exercise. So it becomes like less thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like you
Just becomes
just
automatic
yeah.
because you do want things like exercise and good nutrition and good sleep habits and good
Mm,
hydration habits and stress reduction, meditation, all of those you
mm,
want to just be the way you live. So
yeah.
they need to become routines and habits where you don't have to do a mind map to decide whether you're going to go to the gym or not.
Right. So integrating it. Yes.
Integrating it, it's
Yeah.
just part of your lifestyle.
So true. You were mentioning meditation. It's one of the things that teach at the Center for Mindfulness Canada that I've founded. And, mindfulness really helps with getting to know the mind and body,
Mm-hmm.
becoming aware of not just when we meditate. I think that's a misconception people have, like meditate, close your eyes and ding, it's over, go back to what you're doing. But it's integrating it into getting to know my thoughts, know my body, and how am I living my life.
Well, I think that,
Mm,
physical activity works so well with that mind body connection. And
mm,
that when you're training, you're really focused on your body, what you're doing, what you're feeling, what position you're in, and having that stronger connection
mm,
between your head and the rest of you. And then the other beautiful thing,
mm,
cardio exercise. So whether you're going for a walk or you're swimming laps or you're out there for a run, it allows your mind to think creatively, to solve
mm.
problems, to come up with that solution you've been trying to come up with for work.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of really successful people who talk about when they're exercising that that's their time to think and to come up
Mm.
with those solutions for their work.
Yeah. I mean, it creates a bit of space, right? Like sometimes we over push the brain. I gotta come up with something right now, and but there's space where we're in a
Yeah,
different environment. There's some kind of
absolutely.
relaxing of the mind, enjoying something else, and our minds.
And you're taking
Yeah,
that time for you.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
disconnecting, you're focusing on yourself and how you're feeling, you're focusing on your breathing, where you are in space.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. You know this when you're saying taking time for ourselves. Sometimes I see people really struggling with giving themselves that time. Like, oh, I gotta take care of whatever it is, whether it's kids or pet or neighbors or family or work. I just gotta work. And somehow they're like, oh, I just feeling guilty. And
But really,
what would
you
you
should
say?
feel guilty about work and other people taking time away from you taking care of yourself.
Mm,
It's like the flight attendant says, put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. So you really do need to take care of your health and well being
mm,
before you can help anyone else, before you can look after your family, before you can perform well at work. If you're not taking care of your health and your well-being and being
Mm.
active and getting quality sleep and staying hydrated and managing stress and really focusing on becoming as resilient as you can, then other aspects of your life that you're so worried about and putting first, well, those would suffer anyway if you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the way to look at it then, as you're sharing this, is actually we needed to do better in terms of work, relationships, we're taking care of our body, taking care of our mind. And there's interesting, as you said that, to remind me, there's some interesting research as well, how exercise, when we're stressed, constant state of stress, and many of us are in like chronic stress,
Mm-hmm.
not just the acute, that just something happens and we're stressed and it's over, but chronic, ongoing stress is all the stress hormones in the body and it kind of flood our system. And exercise tricks the body of using a lot of that, like using it because, the fight, flight, or freeze response. And now we're moving. The body's like, oh, and it's one way to think of it is just a simplified way is just flushing the system from all the, it doesn't fix the actual, like sometimes we still have to sit and think, how do I address the stress? But it's hard to think when we're so lost in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said, taking that time to go for a long walk in nature or run or swim some laps, it does, you have that increased oxygen, blood flow to your brain. It's created that space where you're kind of disconnected from everything else.
Mm.
And it does allow you to kind of reset your mind, refocus, and maybe solve some of those issues.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're really, really stressed, like really high level stress,
Mm.
maybe you have a sick family member, maybe there's a lot of pressures at work, maybe your financial situation is, bearing down on you, doing yoga,
Mm.
going for walks, practicing meditation, all of those will help you cope.
Yeah.
They'll build in some of those coping mechanisms and some resilience for you.
Mm.
Whereas if you are really highly stressed, again, exercise is a stress in itself.
Mm.
So high stress people want to avoid things like HIIT or, high intensity training like CrossFit. When you're really stressed, that's not the time for those.
Mm.
Maybe some cardio, not, full out hill sprints or anything, but walking, swimming, things like yoga and Pilates, and one of those things where you can kind of bring down your nervous
Mm.
system are more appropriate.
Mm. So there isn't, it's like the image that I had as you're sharing this is gears. And for many people, it's just put on high gear all the time. And I have to say, I admit that's something that I struggled with, having done, martial arts as a teen. And it was always like, leave it all on the mat every training session in my 20s and 30s and actually 40s. And I'm starting at 50. It was, it was like for so long, it was, leave it on the mat until you got nothing left. And the last couple of years, like I've made adjustments where like, wait a minute, I'm beating my body down. Like, is that you
I
can't train like that, right? Like professional
think
athletes don't do that.
many people have this misconception where unless they're, lying on the gym floor, breathing hard and drenched in sweat, that it's not a good workout. But it's really important to think about what adaptations you're actually trying to create. Are you trying to influence your cardiovascular system? Are you trying to create power, strength? Are you trying to rehabilitate something? Like, what is your purpose and what adaptations are you trying to create in that training session? Or is it just to
Mm.
become exhausted and sweaty?
Right.
So, exhausted and sweaty doesn't necessarily mean better.
That's really interesting because the outcome, I think, for many people is I want to like, be exhausted and sweaty. But I really like how you're saying it. And can you say more about adaptation, like in terms of what changes we're wanting, or what? How can you say a little more about this adaptation? I think it's really interesting.
Of course, it really depends on the
Mm,
individual. I mean, for someone who's older in their
mm,
life, maybe they're more concerned about their bone density or being just independent and being able to do the tasks of daily living. So
mm,
maybe their focus for someone who is trying to live independently in their 80s, 90s, their focus is, it's going to be more their balance, whether they can get out of a chair.
mm,
So focusing on those kind of adaptations where we're making just daily tasks easier. Whereas if we're looking at the opposite, if we're looking at, high performance athletes, maybe what they're looking for is reducing their risk of injury, especially non-contact injuries, the kind of injuries where you change direction and there goes your knee, even though
yeah,
no
yeah.
one was around you, no one hit you.
I've had that
So
before.
that happens, right? So trying to lower the risk of that, trying to, have maximal speed in changing directions, power. So having your training really focused on getting whatever your goal is. So again,
Mm,
we talked about the aesthetics. So for people that are training for aesthetics, well, again, it's going to be about having the body weight as low as possible. Well,
mm,
body fat as low as possible,
right.
making sure that they're actually really balanced in their training and having every single little muscle fiber popping.
Yeah.
And of course, having kind of more specific goals.
Mm,
I think most of us are just training quite more general, right? We're
mm,
thinking about, feeling better. We're thinking about having less aches and pains, being less stiff as we age. Younger people, not so much. Again,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
more of the how do I look? But that focus will change as they age.
Mm,
So most of us aren't super intentional when we go to the gym. Instead, we're
mm,
just kind of, oh, I'll, use this machine and then I'll go to that machine and, because that's what I'm familiar with.
yeah.
But really thinking more about the intention and purpose you have while you're there.
Mm,
I mean,
mm,
some of it might be, okay, well, I sit at a desk all day, so I need to really focus more on strengthening my back and improving my posture. Maybe I have a repetitive issue from because I keep sitting cross-legged and rotated or reaching for my
right.
mouse or whatever. So having intentions to counteract that.
Mm,
So I do think you kind of need to think a little bit about what you need and what you're actually looking for in your workout, what you're
mm.
trying to improve.
See, that takes us to that reflection you mentioned earlier. So that'd be really helpful for listeners, even if you're going to if you're exercising already, like maybe taking a pause of like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And
Have I been doing the same thing for
save
years on end?
yeah, is it getting me what I'm wanting? Yeah, yeah. The other thing comes to mind is when we're talking about gym, sometimes it's intimidating for folks to show up. And it's like,
Yes, very much.
what are people going to think? And, I'm not as fit, or I don't look this bulked, or I don't look this whatever, like body image. So how does that come up in your working with clients in terms of intimidation that people feel? And how do you work? How do you help someone who goes like, it feels a little scary to join something new?
Yeah, well, it's definitely scary,
Mm,
especially if you feel like you don't belong. And of course,
mm,
all the marketing for fitness, the industry tends to be very guilty where their marketing is targeted at people that are exactly like them.
mm,
So it's targeted at the fit and the young and the six packs and the biceps and the
mm,
booties.
mm.
Whereas most of the population doesn't fit within that category.
Right.
And if that's what their perception of what it's going to be like, they're not going to feel like they belong or they can go because it's not
Mm,
for them. But physical activity, health, wellness, movement, all of that is for everyone. everyone has a place within that. So I think for people that are wanting to go to the gym for health benefits, but feel like they don't belong, first, they should, hopefully they're lucky enough to have more than one facility that's accessible to them. Go for a tour. What's the culture like there? Because different gyms are going to have different feels.
Yeah, totally.
So community centers, places like the YWCA, the YMCA, those are much more community based. They're going to have a wide variety of people. They're less intimidating. Whereas if you're going to go to some of the specific chains that are more targeted at certain populations, then maybe you won't feel comfortable there. So go and tour, see what the culture's like. How does it feel? Would you feel comfortable there? Do you feel welcome there? But do know that you do belong, and, you know, other people, well, they're thinking the same thing. They're insecure. They're probably looking at themselves rather than you.
We're thinking about their next set or what we got to do next, or yeah. You know, this you saying, so everyone, you kind of belong there. So what it's, you know, you have a right to be there. Like everyone has the right to take care of a body. It's not like only if you look a certain way, or if you've, you know, you have to make yourself be a certain thing, then you can go exercise, whether it's gym or any type of exercise. It's, you can be as you are, as you are.
Yeah.
I remember you sharing this story about someone that, you know, you see in your commute in the morning, but doesn't fit the typical look. But we were talking about like, wow, that's motivation. Can you
It is
share
motivating.
about
And
that?
I saw him this morning. There is a man that I see pretty much every day, you know, early in the morning, early. It's still dark out, and he is out there walking, and he is walking fast, and he walks a long way because I've seen him at several different points, and it's a long distance. But he would be like on a BMI, he would be obese.
So body mass index, BMI for those.
Yes, the body mass index. So he is on the obese side. But when I see him, I think, A, it's really inspirational. He has fantastic consistency, which is truly key. And he's just so inspirational. I think he must be so fit because he is walking fast and he does it every day. It could be raining, it could be dark. I still see him out there. And, you know, I just want to give him a high five, but I have suppressed my urge to bother him.
Well,
but I just think it's so inspirational to see him. And it is a good reminder that no matter who you are, what your circumstances are, there is some type of physical activity for you.
What a beautiful story, and giving yourself a chance, an opportunity, and because that's really the hardest things. Like no one's around. Like this person you're mentioning that you see, like, gotta face themselves in the morning. Like, gotta go. It's not like you're gonna meet someone, and so that takes a lot of commitment.
Yeah, he's truly made it just part of his life.
Yeah,
He's built in that consistency. It really is inspirational.
yeah. So this takes us to something else that we talked about, which was this, you know, the 1%. You mentioned
Yes.
the other day. So 1%. So sometimes people are like, I don't know, I don't feel like it. So, you know, even after hearing all of this that you shared today, they go, oh, this is great information. I just don't feel like it. I'm not motivated. I wish I could. And what would you say to that?
The marginal gains. So 1%, you try to improve everything by just 1%. So I think, you know, it's really important for people to think about just getting started, just doing it, do something. Doesn't matter what it is, just do something, just start. And it could be as easy as just, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. If you can't stand up, maybe you're just doing some, upper body
Movement.
movement.
Yeah.
And maybe you're just going to do that upper body movement every day right after you drink your coffee.
Mm.
So as we talked about earlier, kind of creating that habit, you're anchoring it to something you already do, like those morning routines. Those tend to be our strongest routines.
Mm.
Again, you're not doing that mind map as to whether you're going to have a shower or not.
You just do it.
You just do it automatically. So if you can tag on some type of activity to that, like maybe you're going to just get off the bus a stop earlier. Maybe you're going to park a little bit further away. Maybe you're going to walk up the escalator. Just making little teeny micro adjustments to your behavior each day. As it doesn't need to be perfect, because good enough is great.
That should be a bumper sticker. Good enough is great. Like just getting it going out there. And this applies, as you're saying it as well, to all levels of fitness. Like that 1%, just stick to something, keep going. And I think, it even helps professional athletes, this 1%, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that. Can you share a story about the cycling? I think you're saying
so the British cycling team, Dave Brailsford, came in to the British cycling team, his whole theory about the marginal gains. So improving 1% of everything. So, I mean, everything. They looked at hand washing technique. They looked at what pillows they were sleeping on. They looked at how they were cleaning the training floor, how the bikes were being maintained. They looked at everything and tried to improve everything by 1%. And it did lead to, gold medals and Tour de France and a great deal of success. Again, with that, just marginal gains where you're just looking at everything that you could improve. So for us, if we take a look at our day, look at your 24 hours. Look at it in 30-minute increments. What are you doing? How are you spending your time? What could be better? What's already going well? And just looking for opportunities in that 24 hours. What could you do better? What are you doing really well that you should continue? And just looking for opportunities and being really, really curious and experimenting a little bit. And back to physical activity, it is an experiment. What do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
Have you tried pickleball? Have you gone swimming? Have you gone to a group fitness class? Have you tried working out alone in the weight room? Like, what do you enjoy? What are you more likely to do? If you hate it, well, what's the point?
Gotta stick to it. Yeah. Yes.
But just being curious and experimenting and looking for opportunities just to make things just a little bit better. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. We always want this to be absolutely perfect and everything to be optimal. But what's the point of that? No one's perfect. Nothing's optimal. And if you can't have a really solid foundation where you're looking at, am I getting enough sleep? Is it good quality sleep? Well, if you're not going to feel like exercising. You're not going to be eating healthy because you're going to be going for things that are maybe sugary or comforting, that are going to help you have more energy, or you're going to be going for convenience because you're too tired to prepare a meal. So do you need to improve that sleep? Do you need to go to bed earlier or make your room cooler or darker or whatever? Looking for opportunities and being curious about that. And then hydration. Are you making water your drink of choice, or are you drinking Coke? Or, your 1,000-calorie frap or whatever. Looking for opportunities. Well, what could be improved there? Could I maybe have some lemon and that'll make me drink more water? Or looking around, your activities of daily living. Like I said, parking further away, walking up escalators, doing some exercises at your desk.
Yes, you're moving your hand there. Yeah, yeah. Just gentle. Yeah, even if it's something like, I guess you're
It's
making
something.
it so becomes very manageable. And I guess it's something doable, like 1% better. And it's not just the exercise. And this is what I'm really appreciating about how you're sharing it. It's like, okay, if we want to improve our fitness goals, we can also make 1% better about other things. Can we sleep like 5 minutes earlier? Like how many of us could benefit from sleeping 5 minutes more a day? Like most people are not getting enough sleep. So what adjustment? Is it not using the social media like half an hour before bed? Could
Yeah,
we do that? Like you're talking about what you shared earlier too. It's like mindset. You're
absolutely.
talking about this kind of growth type of mindset. Like doesn't have to go perfect, but I can keep learning and growing rather than I can't and I'm fixed. And if I couldn't do whatever, 20 push-ups or 5 push-ups or 1 push-up, that I failed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to really work on having that growth mindset where you do believe that things can change, that you can change things for the better. I mean, you can also, obviously, well, you would be able to change them for the worse if you wanted to,
Yes.
but really believing that things, that change is possible. And when you're having those thoughts where you're thinking, oh, I can't do this for X, Y, Z,
Mm,
stopping, reflecting,
mm,
why am I thinking that? Why do I see that as a barrier? Are there other opportunities or ways around that? Or do I need to make things easier? Or do I need to change direction?
mm.
There's always options if we give ourselves a time to look at it through different angles.
See, this naming of it, it's actually one of the focus of this podcast is understanding the mind to transform life. And you're sharing like, wait, reflecting, what's happening? How am I approaching things? What am I thinking? What am I? Because most of the time we're in some kind of autopilot. A good autopilot, a great autopilot, or not a very helpful autopilot. There's some kind of autopilot. So it's kind of reflecting. What am I thinking? What am I doing? What can be a little better? So I really like that. This, and listeners can maybe apply that. Like, what's one thing you can do today, not tomorrow, not a week from now, today? When you listen to this, what's one thing you can do? One thing, 1%.
Well, we're always so guilty of, oh, I'll start the diet, next week, or, I'll exercise tomorrow, not today, tomorrow.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, again, it's better. Like, what can I do now?
yeah, yeah.
What can I do later today? How can I
Mm.
set myself up for success?
Mm.
And again, reduce that friction, make it easy as possible.
Less thinking about it. Yeah. Sometimes people get caught up in what exercise, and I'm sure you get this question a lot, like, is cardio better? Do I do, strength? Like, there's so much out there. I can't get it right. Like, is there, what have you seen and what do you like?
Well, of course, the answer to that is always it depends. And it does come back to, the what adaptations are you trying to create?
Mm,
And again, it's not what's optimal. It's more like, what are you willing to actually do?
mm,
So people will ask, well, what cardio equipment should I use? Well, which cardio equipment do you like to do? Like if I say, oh, the treadmill, it's optimal, it's you have to go and do this for this. And well, again, I'd be setting someone else up for failure if they
yeah,
don't like it, you know?
yeah,
So really doing things you enjoy,
mm,
that would be more optimal. We always worry about what's optimal, what's the best thing I can do. But again, if you don't have that foundation, taking care of yourself on that holistic
mm,
approach with the nutrition and the hydration and the sleep and the stress management, your
mm,
activities of daily living, your planned physical activity, if you're not thinking about all of those different realms
mm,
and even other health related things like taking care of your oral health,
Yeah.
taking care of your eyesight, really just taking care of yourself.
Yeah. This body, taking
It's a
care of
body,
this body.
everything's connected.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking care of the whole you're going to be creating a lot of friction, and there's going to be things that will prevent you from that big aspiration if
Mm.
you're not kind of taking care of yourself on that 360.
Yeah. So it's facing as well, the discomfort in the short term of like, I gotta go, whether it's the first time to the gym or going back to something or continuing. We'll have moments. I still have those moments, in the
Yeah, we
morning, and
all have those
yeah, and my
moments.
body's like, I'm not sure how to rather sleep. And I've come to learn when actually I've overtrained. And I think that took me so long and so like a lot of injuries. Even I picked up running on top of everything, and I started pushing, 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 and I actually hurt my Achilles. I had a partial tear, and then I started learning. Wait a minute, I got overtraining is not going to get me there sooner.
Of course, often it's not actually, like, for most people, it's not actually overtraining,
Mm.
it's under recovery. So again, they're just not taking care of themselves on the nutrition and sleep and stress management side of things.
Mm.
So it really is, that holistic approach. And there are certain people, I mean, there's people that are sedentary and aren't active at all, but then there are people that are on the other extreme where they're pushing themselves beyond the limit.
Oh.
And of course, there is a price to pay for that.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's a trade off, right? If you want to have six-pack abs, well, you're giving up celebratory meals with your family, because you're not going to be eating cake or turkey dinner. You might be eating
Mm.
turkey, but you're probably eating it with, plain vegetables, no gravy. You're giving up night out with the boys and beer and
Mm.
nachos. You're giving up time with your family because
Yeah.
your training is everything.
Mm.
Everything you do supports that. So anything else outside of that world has to pay the price.
Mm.
There's a cost for it. And there's a cost for high performance sport.
Right.
It's we think of athletes as being very healthy, but not so much, because they're pushing themselves to the extremes.
Mm.
And whether they're, wearing out their joints, or they're going to have other organ issues from whether it's muscle damage, and how much that can stress kidneys. And
Mm.
so you have to find the happy medium where you're giving yourself enough recovery and, nutritional support and sleep and stress management,
Yeah.
as well as, finding where that line is on the boundary of, performance versus health.
Mm. So interesting. This, someone could be fit, super fit, but not healthy.
But not
Like
healthy.
injuries. And you said something about kidney. Like, is it like certain supplement? Like too much? Is that what you mean, or too much kind of
Well,
exercise?
it would be from really extreme exercise.
Mm.
You can have a lot of muscle cell damage, and
Mm.
then the cellular debris and everything from those cells damaging. So they lysis, which they're kind of, think of your muscle cells exploding on you, and
Yes.
the cellular debris and all of that needs to get filtered through your kidneys.
Mm.
So if you're, competing in, let's say CrossFit games, nothing against that, but, if you're pushing yourself to the limits to become a champion, or you're a champion power lifter and
Mm.
you're squatting, 1,200 pounds, your body is paying the price for that. Not maybe in that moment, but after, when you have
Mm.
all that muscular damage, your kidneys have to filter it. That's challenging on them. Of course, the joints, your wear and tear, the stress on your cardiovascular system.
Mm.
And of course, we have seen, in the news where you'll get like an entire football team that's ended up in the hospital
Wow.
from like rhabdomyolysis, which is that cellular damage.
Mm.
or you'll see players unfortunately passing away from, maybe a heart issue, or maybe it's heat stress from being, like in the southern US,
Mm.
football practice with all that equipment on,
Here.
the
Yeah.
heat and the humidity. So there is can be a very high price to pay for performance.
Yeah. See, this is feeling like quite a balanced view that you're sharing. So we don't just put something on a pedestal that like high performance pushing. It comes with a cost, and people when they pursue these as a profession, as a professional athlete, it's like a cost they take into account. This is takes a toll
Mhm.
on the body. So just really good to keep that in mind, and takes the pressure off. So that when we go exercising, we're not going to the Olympics, right? We just want to improve the body and challenge ourselves in a healthy way. I guess that's what you're naming. Just a right healthy challenge, and sometimes talking to people or your friends or a personal trainer like yourself, just adjusting things, improving
And
things.
adjusting your expectations of what,
Mm.
if you're not willing to give up, your wine or nights out or whatever to get that, then, well, you can't have that if you're not going to
Yeah.
give that up. So
Yes.
managing your expectations and figuring out what is actually important to you and why it's important.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, I thought we can apply that as well of like the discomfort of trying a new thing, like a new gym or a new fitness or a new exercise group. There's discomfort in that. And maybe that's the price we have to willingly take on. Like that's the price. It's gonna suck. It's not gonna feel comfortable, but the outcome is what it's getting me. I'm connecting. I'm socializing, taking care of my body. So I guess this is so helpful because there's gonna be some cost if we overdo it, uh, physical cost. If we don't do it enough, we have to face the discomfort of not doing it later on as well as we age, as you named. It's a long term cost if we don't take care of the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, you kind of bring up a point of it is uncomfortable to go to
Mm.
the gym. And I think people that regularly go already, it's a good reminder to them when they see someone new come in, make sure you're making sure they feel welcome and that they belong.
Yeah.
You know, I always see this time of year when people are complaining about new people coming to the gym, when people think, oh, January, there's all these new people. It's awful. You were a new person once. Make
Right.
them feel welcome. You want them to be there. You want them to be taking care
Mm.
of themselves.
Yeah.
And you want to be in an environment where you feel welcome and that is enjoyable to be in. Like it
Mm.
should be enjoyable to be
Yeah.
at the gym. It shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be uncomfortable and feeling like you don't belong. It should be enjoyable. It should be rewarding. You should have that social connection with others.
Mm. See, that's community.
Absolutely.
Right. And supporting community.
And of course, that's the other aspect of health is that social connection. It's so important
Mm.
for our health. And again, physical activity is a way to have social connection.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to dance or you're
Mm.
playing a team sport or you're going to group fitness, it provides so many opportunities for that sense of community and connection and having that social network. That's
Yes.
so important.
It's so true. I've actually met, one of my best friends from long time ago. That's how I met them, like through exercise, right? Like so, it's like we meet people, we meet good people, right? And sometimes the people we meet we barely know. And the gym that I go to, the recreation center, is I often see this gentleman. Same time in the morning, I'm leaving and he's coming in and we're always like, oh, good morning, how are you, how was your day? I feel so happy when I see him. He comes in, it's just like I know nothing about this person's life, but I feel good, and we're always smiling and how was your day and kind of chit chat, and I really enjoy that, like.
Well,
And when he's not there, I'm like, oh, I hope he's okay.
yeah, exactly. Well, there's been so much research about, how little interactions like that are so important for your mental health, right? Those little connections where you go into the same, convenience store or place where you get your
Mm.
coffee, or you to the gym and you see the same people.
Yeah.
Again, it's that community and social connection, and it's so important for your health and well-being.
Yeah.
And even those minor little connections have an
Yes. So it gives us opportunities like this fitness, this exercise gives us opportunities for wellness on so many levels. And also
absolutely.
social wellness. So I really look forward to hearing, from listeners, and feel free to put in the comment section, like, what are your takeaways? Because there's so much to apply here. And I have to tell you, I so appreciate all the knowledge, all this kindness and sharing and taking your time. And I wonder, anything else you want listeners to know, or any other encouragements before we end?
Well, I think, be kind to yourself. Remember that everyone has felt the way you do at some point in time. Everyone has, felt uncomfortable or felt like they're failing or challenged. So be kind to yourself, self-reflect, think about what you want to change, why you want to change it, and what processes you need to put in every single day to get
Mm.
you there. Those little 1% marginal gains, what could be a little bit better?
Mm.
Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a little teeny bit better. And, just get started.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing. And I wonder, how can people reach you if they want to learn more about what you do? What's the best way to reach you? And I'll put it in the show notes, but I'm wondering, what's the best way to reach you? Is it your website or?
Yeah, definitely through my website, which is westcoastconditioning.ca. You can reach me through there. I do have social media, but I don't really use
Yeah.
it for business. Not like everybody else in my industry.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to hear from people. They can reach out anytime.
Mm.
Of course, I work in downtown Vancouver. So if anyone wants to come and train with me, they can come and train with me at Contenders Athletic Center, which is
Mm.
on Dunsmuir Street, or the YWCA on Hornby. I'd, love to have people reach out and come and see me. I'm really happy to help them on their journey of
Mm.
fitness and wellness, and help them make those marginal gains.
Well, thank you so much. And may you continue to bring this knowledge to others. I really appreciate your time. And I want to thank all the listeners for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, for watching. If you found this useful and helpful, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. You can also visit our website, centerformindfulness.ca, about mindfulness events, free events, well, including laughter, meditation, retreats. May support some other marginal gains. So feel free to check out the website. Thank you again. May your moments be filled with ease, and may you be present in as many of them. Thank you.